Hi, I'm Kelly at Book and Paper Arts, and today's video is going to show a lot of techniques for working with a variety of surfaces that you might not have thought of as blank spaces for your own work in your journals and your mixed media pages. Partly because it is an easy, fun, very affordable way to add layers and interest and texture to your work. But also because I make these boiled books, which I have shown a few times. They are made of a mixture of papers that are not blank, maps, writing, echo prints, stained pages, text that itself has been stained. And what I hear a lot is, well, those are pretty, but I don't see any room on those pages for me to do my own work. There's just not enough space. I actually hear this from my friends who make junk journals, that people say that their books are pretty, but that there's so much going on already by the time they receive a junk journal or think about one, that they don't see room on that page to express their own work. Fair enough. So I hope that the techniques I'm going to show today will give you some ideas for working on messy pages and making them your own. Or just take these techniques and use them to whatever blank journal you're working in now, and you're good to go. If you like old paper, if you like art journals, altered books, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. I post every Friday. Now let's go learn stuff. First, let's draw and paint some flowers. If you think you don't draw or paint well, please don't go anywhere, because these flowers are abstract, loose, fun, and pretty, and really, really easy. I'm going to show one technique using acrylic paint, but I'm going to start off by showing one using soft chalk pastels. And if you don't have any of the materials that I'm showing today, that's fine. Improvise and use what you've got. I've even made really pretty pages using sidewalk chalk or crayons, so just use what you have. I want to show how this looks in my boiled book. So we're going to actually do it on this text page here, but you can see that even though this page was messy and dyed and print and mark making, it's still very pretty and effective. Gonna do the same here and draw some crown flowers. You know, those kind of floppy sunflower looking things. You can draw a lot of different kind of flowers like this, being messy, because look, they're just blobs. Don't tell me you can't draw sticky blobs, because you can. And you can tell people they're petals. If they're nice people, they won't contradict you. I'm going to smudge these in. You don't have to, but I love to make them look a little bit softer. It's more forgiving. Oh, you can use a blending tool. I can never find mine. So I'm just going to go nuts like that. I have not prepared this page. I haven't primed it with anything. It's just paper. Now I'm going to take some purple and make some crowns. Just like that. Okay. Blend those in a little bit. Add a little bit of some stems. Do a little smudging there. Add a few leaves. And here you go, something like this. And then, so you could either be working in a sketchbook or an altered book, or you could take some text like this, make a page, and then add it to the journal that you're working in now. If you smudge well, you probably aren't going to need to fix the page, but if you want to make sure, you always can. The truth is, if I'm making a piece for myself and it's not for sale, in a pinch, I will use hairspray. I know it is not archival quality. Don't yell at me. It's good enough for the likes of me. If I am selling a piece, I use a proper artist's fixative, spray fixative. So there. Now let's look at using a map as a canvas. And again, you might easily think, well, this is just going to be too hard to work on something this busy. But is it? Here is a page that I made in my book on a messy boiled map. It's really pretty and it pops. This paper is from Reader's Digest 1970s Atlas, so it's glossy. It's not going to work well with everything, but I'm going to use acrylic. And I don't use acrylic a lot, so I'm improvising a palette made from a piece of greaseproof paper. Now, I'm just going to do some finger painting. You can, of course, use a brush or what you will. And I'm just going to put down some blobs. Some blobby spheres. That's it. Different sizes. I'm going to have some of them bump into each other a little bit so that they're overlapping. There's a little bit of rose. Okay. Now, that's the start. This is one I did last night. That's already dried. And to add the detail, I'm going to use some acrylic pens. These are by Ranger. But you don't have to have an acrylic pen. You could use just a plain old art pen. A fine tip Sharpie will work. This is just a plain old Uniball in blue. And I've gone ahead and I've added a little bit of mark making here. So you don't have to watch me do every one. And in a way, I kind of think this mark making almost looks like a little bit of embroidery. And it just adds a little bit of detail. I didn't add it to all of them. Now, I am going to take my white pen. You could also probably use a gel pen. And I'm going to make just some swirly swirls, okay? Then I'm going to take the black pen and add my stems. And these are very, very, very simple stems. I'm doing it in a sort of a naive style. And if you can't draw well, that's something that you can always lead with. That you're working in a naive style. Try it. I do it all the time. And there you have a pretty charming card that really pops on the map. A lot of texture, layers. This would make a charming card and certainly a great addition to your art journal. Now let's look at making watercolor flowers on some handwritten paper. If you do not have a stash of handwritten paper from 1842, don't worry, because I have an online newsletter, and this coming Sunday, it is going to include scans of a variety of handwritten papers, including this, which is from 1794, so that's French Revolution era. The scans are free. All you have to do is join my online newsletter, and they will come into your inbox on Sunday, and then you can use them in your own work. Also, I do sell original, handwritten, and other vintage paper ephemera bundles. If you would like to have a look at those and or subscribe to my newsletter, the link is below this video in the text. And if you don't see that, just let me know and we'll get that sorted out. So I actually have prepared this paper because watercolors, they are watery, and that means they want to bleed sometimes, especially with old paper. So what I did was I primed it with a layer of clear gesso. And then now it has a little tooth to it, and it's going to protect the paper. You can also use just white gesso. I put a very thin layer on so that you can still see the print below, and it has that peeling fresco look that I'm so crazy about. Now I'm going to take a round brush and just make some pools of water. And it is just about impossible to show you those. But I'm just making some pools of water that are sort of vaguely heart-shaped. If anything, they have a little bit of a C, like a C shape or a... Now I'm going to take my watercolor and get a lot of color there. You want a lot of intense color there. And then what I'm doing is just putting it in the pool of water. And it is going to do the rest of the work. It's going to spread, move around, go where it wants to go. I'm going to add a little bit of a different red to that. Again, just really load that up and put it in there. Now, these take ages to dry. I mean, a long time. Overnight kind of ages. So I have started another one yesterday. This is on some different vintage letterpress paper. But it really pops and I like it. So this is what happened. The paint kind of, moved around and then finally settled in these blobby blobs. Now that it's dry, I'm going to add a little bit more. Not over the whole thing, just part of it, because it actually sort of suggests more of the irregularities of petals. And it makes a lot of intense paper, but you can still see the text below. I'm going to pick up some green and add some messy stems. Like this. Pick up some more green and add some grass. And let's see. Finally, going back to my brush here, and I'm just going to add some splotchy splotches like this. Bloop. And probably with the green as well. And so when this dries, again, you'll have a beautiful card or something to put into your art journal work or other pages. Now let's look at a version of that in my boiled book, where I have painted over an echo print, very much like the echo print here. And I know that these really do perplex some people about using them as a blank page. But what I've done is instead of working against it, I have actually worked into the vegetal aspects of this page. Painted over it, but somehow it goes. Let's see. I have also used that same effect with collage. Again, what I've done is I've picked colors and collage pieces and focal points that work with that messy background. And here I'm going to show an example of how you can also work into this, kind of like what we used to do in school when we were this big. And that is, you're going to let the shape tell you what the picture is. So this very much looks like a petal or a bloom. So I'm just taking a plain old pencil and going into that. Okay. And now we have a bouquet. Like this. A little bit of a... And then you could even add some mark making or some words. So now you started out with a little, maybe an intimidating, bold echo print, and now you have a beautiful layout with blooms. Finally, here is a completely different technique using stencils. I love stencils, and if you do too, I have a longer video on YouTube that just looks at fun ways to use stencils in a variety of your pages. Today I am using an ink pad and a blending tool. If you don't have a blending tool, a cheap makeup sponge will do just fine. Now I'm just pouncing a little bit and rubbing a little bit to get it in there. But it is meant to be messy and cool. So now you could just use this page the way it is, as far as I'm concerned. It's lovely. Or you can now take it and make it into a background for collage. So you can see that we're really doubling down on the messy background. See, I'm not going to glue this down. I'm just going to show you. Here's a lady. See, that could be working over the stencil work there. Might start with that. No, let's do this. Let's do this. Let's put that. And then we have this kingfisher. He's looking at him. Okay. So you can see that the print, the stencil work, letting the print come through really makes that page pop. And here is an example of that technique in my book. I've used an arch, some arches, a stencil with some arches over text, and then just adding some little bits of collage. There we go. I have about at least 20 other techniques for working on maps and print and alternative papers for your pages. I'm putting them into an online course, which will be out in September. So please let me know what you think about that. In the meantime, now that you know what to do with them, I do sell these boiled books in my online shop. Please leave me a question or something, a comment in the feedback. I love to compare notes. Join me for the online newsletter this Sunday. If you are watching this video from in the future and that newsletter's already gone, please just get in touch and I will get a link to the scans to you. In the meantime, I will see you next Friday. Get up and go make something.